kind of a famous guy now. Are you like, is this how that looks at your house?
What do you mean?
I don't know. Like you made a movie now since the last time we talked to everybody. And
I did.
And is this how you get through your day as a big famous director now?
What, just screaming about scrolling?
Screaming?
Yeah. Absolutely, I do. Oh, the only things that changed is I've gotten more frustrated on a daily basis. Do not worry. But
welcome to season 4, Tom.
Oh my gosh, we're already on. Welcome to season 4, Pete.
Yeah.
This is exciting.
Yeah, what took us so long?
I know. Errands. So many errands.
Cleaning and scrubbing. And I brushed my teeth in there.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, no, it was good. Good times. I wanted to start by just asking you, have you learned anything about yourself in the time that we have been off since season 3?
I have great news. I am anxiety-free. This has been What's That Smell? See you next season.
You and the laugh lines. Well done.
Have I really learned something about myself? I think I miss this show. That's sort of what I learned, is I feel like something was missing in my life and I didn't know what it was. And now I feel it all rushing back to me, which is very exciting.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah. How about you?
Very exciting. I have it as always. I find the closer we get to recording this show, I discover how easy it is for me to get anxious about stuff. And I mean fast. Yep. As soon as I start thinking about it, I'm like, oh, well, I could get a horrific infectious disease from touching that mailbox. And then it's in my head. And then I have to live with it for a few hours. And then I learned yesterday about a new thing I'm sure we'll be talking about, rejection-sensitive dysphoria. Do you know what this is?
No. Do tell.
Oh, Tom, this is what happens when you're rejected and your mind does not know how to handle rejection, and it causes you to go into deep depression. And I don't mean just like, hey, you're rejected because I'm, divorcing you or something like significant like that. I mean like, hey, your button-down shirt, your buttons are off by one, so you look a little cockeyed. You might want to go to the bathroom and fix that. And that'll cause a depression for 10 hours.
What?
And yes, that's what that is. Rejection-sensitive dysphoria. Learned about that when I was interviewing another guest for a different podcast, and it has been stuck with me like a fishhook in my face.
Wow.
Discovering all of the reasons I am susceptible to this for, conditions. It's crazy and it's everywhere.
I got to be honest. I am hearing about this. I am so glad I don't have that, because I am the personification of a misbuttoned shirt. I feel like I'm walking through life tripping over my own feet, literally and figuratively. So if I had that, that would be rough. I would never come out of the bathroom. I'd just be buttoning.
That's right. Yes. And it is so much more even than buttons. You might have like pepperoni on your face at any given moment and just not know about it.
Right. Singing about dogs, saying goodnight.
Yeah.
I've got a whole bag of nonsense.
Oh, it's good to be back.
Nearly gave you a heart attack. Thought I told you to watch your back. Never know what to expect down here. That's the only solid fact.
Welcome back to What's That Smell? A sometimes funny podcast about humans and their anxieties. I'm Tommy Metz III.
And I'm Pete Wright.
And every week, we each drag out one of our deepest, darkest anxieties into the light to share it, learn about it,
and hopefully laugh about it with all of you.
Reach out again. We are still, of course, doing listener submissions all season long, so send us the story of your anxieties to Something Stinky at whatsthatsmell.net. I've embraced it. Something Stinky at whatsthatsmell.net.
You sound great.
Really? I know.
Yeah.
Can you hear me tensing up? But I'm smiling through the pain? Just kidding.
Yeah.
I love it. Something Stinky at whatsthatsmell.net. And with all of that, I will go first.
Exactly where I want.
Peta, as we gently ease into the new season, I would like to take you on a time-honored What's That Smell journey of guided meditation.
I stand
It's been a while.
relieved. Yeah. Shall I take off my shoes? Can I take off my shoes?
Absolutely put more shoes on. Okay, here we go. So take a deep breath. You're relaxed. Now imagine you're going down a long, long escalator and you're heading down, 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 and you're relaxed. And now you're having trouble hearing me because someone in front of you is holding their cell phone in front of their face and screaming into it. And it's, of course, on speaker, so you can hear the garbled screaming of the other person on the line. And you're going down and you're relaxed. And now there seems to be a log jam of people at the bottom of the escalator because one person got off the escalator and is just standing right there looking around blankly. And now people are starting to bump into each other and you're relaxed and you don't quite know what to do. So you say, excuse me, to the person in front of you. And they seem startled that someone else exists and turns around and mouths the word, I'm on the phone, like you didn't know because they were already screaming at it. And then they shake their head like, I'm an idiot. And surprise twist, this isn't really a guided meditation. This is something that happened to me yesterday at Ralph's. Okay.
I am not relaxed.
No, for those that don't know, Ralph's is your basic Kroger grocery store, and this happens a lot. Okay, so my anxiety this week is a weird one, Pete, and I'm hoping you can sort of help me traverse this. If it has a specific name, I couldn't really find it, other than that basic idea that hell is other people. Here we go. Let me walk you through it, and then I will open it up to you. It seems like more and more we are becoming a nation of people who stand in doorways, who get to the bottom of a moving escalator and then pause forever while pondering a destination. People that park their shopping carts in the exact middle of an aisle while staring at soup. We use our phones in public like kids in the olden days used to use cans connected by string. We're just holding them in front of our faces and yelling into them, even though doing it that way doesn't seem to make anything easier. It seems like this is a lot of shopping, but it's not just shopping. It's all over the place. The basic connecting through line is that there seems to be a breakdown in thinking about other people. More and more, it seems like people are oblivious to those around them. I don't think it's necessarily narcissism, but more like there's this weird invisible bubble around people, and I call it non-malicious incivility or non-maliciousability. Now, I'm about to open it up, but this might sound like frustration more than anxiety, right? You're probably like, huh? This just sounds like you're grumpy. But here's where the anxiety comes in. It's two parts. Number one, am I just get off my lawning? When the whole class fails, you have to take a hard look at the teacher. And I'm worried that I'm just getting older and crankier while the world stays the same. To wit, an Associated Press poll revealed that nearly 70% of those questions said people are ruder than they were 10 years ago, in part due to, quote, self-absorbed communication devices and demand for instant gratification. Here's the twist. That poll was taken in 2005. Do you even remember 2005? I don't even know if we had running water in 2005, but we were already like, phones are the worst and people are the worst. So I'm worried that I'm just sort of like getting older and darn these kidsing. And so that's anxiety. And number two, if I'm put off by the actions of others so often, what are my blind spots? I already said I walk through life as an unbuttoned shirt. I must be infuriating people daily, and I have no idea how. To my credit, I'd like to think of myself as a very polite person. I just realized recently when I ask Siri to set an alarm when I'm cooking, I always use the word please.
Yes. No, that's
and
good.
She's a robot person, but I always do because I think it's just sort of ingrained in me to try to be as polite as possible. So that was a whole lot of words all in a row. And I just wanted to ask you, do you experience this? Do you feel that people are getting ruder? Any kind of thoughts like that?
My experience is that, yes, there is a notable decline in just general empathy.
Empathy. Okay, yes, that's a good word for it. Okay, right. That's the basic idea of like experiencing the feelings of those around you.
Right. Just like being aware that there are people in front of you and behind you when you're engaging in this sort of public display of communication. And right. That what is interesting about something you just said is that more and more people are holding their phone on speakerphone right in front of their mouth, like it's a platter, like they're about to eat it. Yeah. And that's the like way. And I see that. I've been noticing it like on our path. I go and I walk the dog and I see that. And it tends to be older people who are doing that, screaming at their phone like it's a plate of dessert.
Right.
And then you said,
why are you screaming at a plate of dessert?
Why are you explaining? Is there like sliced fruit on your phone? And then you said it's like they're screaming through cans in the olden days. Well, these were the people who were kids screaming into the cans.
So it's just
you
nostalgia.
Yes, it's nostalgia. That's an amazing connection that you made for me, apropos of nothing.
Right.
I am noticing that myself, and airports, people
Waiting
grabbing
rooms.
waiting rooms, luggage off the luggage rack. People are just who can get there first, and can I just pull hard enough to knock everybody else out of the way so I can fall out of the bus, right? Like those kinds of things. So I wonder how much of that is just me being generally anxious and frustrated all the time. And so I notice that stuff maybe with a finer radar.
What do you mean finer radar? Meaning you're a little bit more sensitive to the idea of it might be you as much as it is other people, right?
Yes, and I'm constantly reflecting others' actions off of my own interpretation. And so things that might frustrate me, I have to stop, take a step back and say, wait a minute. Does everybody else care about this thing as much as I care about this thing? Do people look frustrated? Generally, no. They're just staring at their phones like everybody else, and maybe they're screaming into them like it's a platter. Maybe they're not. But whatever it is, I usually find I'm the outlier, and that causes me like that self-reflective self-judgment. And so I get, there's so many layers to this, Tom. There are layers upon layers of this anxiety onion.
Right. Well, because we are the kind of people that are blessed/cursed with self-reflection.
Yes.
And so I like the idea that I kind of like having anxiety about it because I'm not just yelling at the world.
Yeah.
That's what makes it different than get off my lawning, as I ineloquently said, is at least I'm thinking, is this even my lawn? It's not I don't know what any of that meant.
I like to hope that's true. But sometimes I look at just the way I kind of go through the world, and maybe I worry, because it's what I do, that I'm just an awareness of this lack of empathy isn't making me any more empathetic. And that troubles me. Right. That troubles me. Maybe I told you this. Have I told you this story? I was taking a walk with my wife and our dog, and we found on this. That's not the story. That's not an O line.
That was enough for me.
Just wait.
Fresh air.
So we're taking a walk, and it's been raining, and the streets are kind of there. And we find a safe that is clearly, it's like a kid's safe, that has been clearly broken and bent and like it had been stolen. And there were stickers and pictures and things strewn all over the sidewalk.
Oh.
And I just walked over it. It was kind of in front of a house. And I immediately said, well, they'll pick it up. It's their house. And my wife said, we're picking it up. And we picked up every little bit of everything: soggy pictures, photos, notes, blue ribbons from Boy Scouts from years ago. And we took it home and we laid it all out like we just found money in the river, and we lined it all up, and we were like hair drying photos and things. And
really?
Yes. No, I'm not kidding. And we paced together an entire life of this person and discovered that this was a person who lived and grew up it was roughly the same age, a little bit younger than we are, grew up in Colorado Springs, Colorado, where we grew up. All the photos were photos of this person at the Colorado Springs Zoo, where we grew up. Like, it was an incredible parallel. And then we called the police, the non-emergency line, and we said, hey, we found this. It's just personal knickknacks. It's probably not very important. You all have much better things to do. Don't even worry about it. 2 hours later, a sheriff shows up at our house and looks at some of the pictures and some of the blue ribbons written in a kid's name. Like, I'm not going to say his name, but his name is written on these blue ribbons in like a 13-year-old handwriting. And she says, well, it's weird. There is a guy by this name like 2 blocks away. And so, do you mind if I give him your address? The sheriff says. And we said, sure. An hour goes by, and this person comes to our door, this adult person, and says, I cannot believe that you did this. This is unbelievable. I was in Colorado Springs. My family moved to Vancouver. Now I live here in the neighborhood. Somebody broke into my parents' truck. They found my childhood safe and brought it to me as a gift. And I just hadn't gotten a chance to open it. I didn't even know what was in it. And you guys saved all of it. Now, that was not me. Like, I glommed on to my wife's natural sense of empathy. I would have left it washing away in the street. And I'm honest, I could tell that story because I carry regret for not having that instinct. And I try, as a result of that experience, to focus on, what I can do to help other people in this weird way, because it's not natural for me. I have to be conscious of it.
Came to you. Where do you live? Northern
either.
Exposure?
It's so weird, right? Like, listen to that. I shout out to the Washington County Sheriff's Department.
Incredible.
They're amazing. Like, they're just fantastic. They are so kind. That is another example. Like, this is a sheriff's department that doesn't, like, what is it, Pleasantville? Do I live in Pleasantville? Like, they don't have better things to do. I know I hear sirens all the time. They have work to do.
Well, because there's safes all over the place. That's
exactly,
probably what they're...
That's exactly...
You got a hold of the collage police.
Yeah. Yes, I did.
Special SCU. Oh, SCU. See, that's fun.
You've done good work. Anyway, do you see what I mean? Like, that's something I carry around. Like, this lack of it. I want to be a better person. That makes me constantly think when I'm at the airport, I need to go someplace away from people to take a phone call. I need to opt to text instead of calling.
And I have weird over empathy even for things that are probably a bad idea. I'm not trying to out empathize you, but I'm saying I can see right now from where I'm sitting, there's a small stuffed animal and his name is Trash Dog.
Well, that's mean.
Because, because I found him in the trash.
Oh,
I was walking by a dumpster and someone had thrown away a partially burned stuffed animal of a black dog. And I took him home. He's probably filled with spiders, but this is a long time ago because something about it was too heartbreaking to me. That's why I have trouble with movies like Toy Story.
Yeah.
Like if everything, like if this book has a feeling, I have to sing to this book now? Come on. I have errands to do.
Yes.
Well, that was a wonderful story. And it kind of makes me feel bad to go back to the idea that everyone's the worst, but should I? That's most of my research was sort of a little less you live in Pleasantville kind of a thing. But
okay, well, let's just put a pin in that there is one person who is better than both of us, and that's my wife. And then we can go back to the trash people that you want to talk about.
Right. As I'm stepping over people experiencing homelessness to rescue a stuffed dog out of a dumpster. Great.
Right?
Tommy, you really did your thing. Well, something that you got into, the idea of it makes you self-reflective and really thinking about yourself, that really connects with something that I found in the blog The Cut. This is from Carl Rom. He wrote that the European Journal of Psychology in 2016 interviewed a whole bunch of people and gave them examples of rude behavior. And some were in the first person as if they, the people, the survey takers, were the offender, and others in the third person, meaning they were victims of said rude behavior. And the difference between the perceived harm was huge. That if they were in the role of the person doing the sort of rude behavior, the incivility was found to seem severely less serious, more due to the situation, and really isn't hurting anyone. But if there was a stranger doing it, it was really harmful. The other person is the worst. Couldn't blame it on the situation. Basically, and also that if their situation was, if the rude behavior was coming from their friends, that they were really less bothered by it. So to sum up, that was a lot of words again, but to sum up, the world isn't getting ruder. Our egos just make it seem that way. Strangers are ruder than friends, and certainly ruder than we are. And as the world shrinks, we see more strangers than we used to, so we see more rudeness too. So he says it's not an erosion of civilization, it's just strict math. There's more of us, we're around each other, and we think strangers are the worst while we're doing great. That doesn't necessarily make me feel a ton better, but at least that goes against the idea that everyone is getting worse, which I think is a little more scary.
I think any of the isms falls right into that definition, right? Sexism and racism. And, I'm not a racist. Many of my friends are black, right? That's like, politicians are terrible unless you're a politician. You know what I mean? Like, that's not a crime because, all of us think that it's okay. And that's what you have to do to be in politics, right? Those are the kinds of like rationalizations that we internalize too easily, probably. And we don't have enough role models anymore.
Well, that comes up. If it is real there are two experts about this kind of thing that did talk about if it's real, part of it is they blame the parents.
Of course.
Without proper guidance, each generation is destined to become ruder. This is by Suzanne M. Alexander, a relationship coach and marriage educator. She says that in current days, adults are so stressed trying to just keep up with daily life that they're more likely to be unintentionally rude. They're just too rushed to be polite. And when parents are stretched too thin, they don't take time or make time to teach their kids. Mm-hmm. And therefore the kids become jerks like the parents.
Yeah.
A lot of people like to blame parents.
Well, and the problem is that then while the parents are capable of better behavior, the kids then are not, because they haven't been taught the better behavior. The parents, like, the excuse is, and I find this all the time, like, I'm just moving too quickly and I don't slow down to do something that I otherwise would, or I don't always put a napkin on my lap when I eat, and therefore my son ends up like licking the table when something falls. That's one of those little bits of behavior.
That is a slippery slope.
Come on. It totally is. It is one of those things. I forgot, like 6 years ago, I should have started this zealous effort to put a napkin on my lap and use it on my face. And I didn't. And now I have a table licker.
Your house is just filled with wet tables and children's safes.
Right.
How do you get out the door?
I'm gunning for an HGTV special. New segment, Tom.
What?
This year in anxiety. Put yourself back. The year is 944 CE. You're wandering the street, wondering if you should hit up that Mod Pizza for some hot pepperoni and pineapple, maybe with some happy jalapenos on top, and you think, ha, bloating. Now, let's say you're poor and wandering 10th century France. Sure, the pizza might be exactly the same, Tom, but the grain, you eat a lot of rye crust, which was a big grain back in the day.
Okay.
You might find yourself a touch anxious about a friendly little parasite that causes St. Anthony's fire, otherwise known as ergotism.
Wasn't that a movie? Oh, I think it was St. Elmo's fire. Okay, go ahead.
St. Elmo's fire is very different.
I can see a new horizon. Sorry, go ahead.
This one starts with red spots all over your skin, and they begin innocently enough until they start to burn. At first, a little, and then a lot, and it burns so much, in fact, that you start to hallucinate, Tom. There are documented reports that those suffering from St. Anthony's fire believe they were in a fight with the devil.
Oh, no.
I know, right? Don't worry, it doesn't last, because soon your extremities begin to rot and fall off. Toes, feet, whole legs. No worries. It wasn't just an isolated thing either. Reports indicate that in the year 944 CE, 40,000 people died from our friend St. Anthony's fire. You think you've got it bad, world.
Jeez. You know what's the worst? The past. God.
Ain't that the truth? And that's why I have our old friend Audible back with us. This
Audible,
show,
it's been a long time.
It's amazing. The show is sponsored by Audible, and the book I want to recommend today, oh, Tom, you are going to love it.
Okay.
It's called Viruses, Plagues, and History.
Nope. Nope. Pass, and pass.
By Michael B.A. Oldstone, narrated by L.J. Ganser. It's 13 hours and 38 minutes. Listen to this. The story of viruses and humanity is a story of fear and ignorance, of grief and heartbreak, and of great bravery and sacrifice. Oldstone tells all of these stories as he illuminates the history of the devastating diseases that have tormented humanity, focusing mostly on the most famous viruses.
Oh, boy. What a hit parade. I'm trying to think of a joke involving Old Stone Creamery, and I can't think of anything.
This is a great. It's a great learning opportunity, and I'll tell you
Sure.
what, listeners of this show, you can learn all you want about viruses, especially the famous ones, the A-listers, for free.
So yes, if you're interested in listening to 13 hours about the sniffles, please go to www.audibletrial.com/scent of a podcast. Again, Audible has over 100,000 million titles to choose from for all of your squares. Go to audibletrial.com/scent of a podcast. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial. And guess what? You're helping the show as well.
Absolutely, you are. Do you know last season was the costs of the show subsidized by people who supported us on Audible? What do you think about that?
That's wonderful. Keep it up,
is.
you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
And no, I'm not stealing all the money.
audibletrial.com/scent of a podcast. Tommy,
Hello.
are you a reunion guy?
No. Well, certain things. I know that my high school has had a bunch of reunions, and I've been to over none of them.
Really counting the days.
Yeah.
Cherished experience.
They just keep coming and going. But the singing group that we were in college recently had its, 20th year reunion? Is that right?
25.
Oh, was it 25?
Was it 20? What was happening 25 years ago? I don't know.
Let's see. I know everyone was rude. Anyways, I went to that, so I've made a priority for certain reunions, but no, mostly they give me a lot of anxiety, to be honest. The idea of going back to high school, I guess I justify it by saying I'm friends with the people that I still want to be friends with.
Ooh,
from high
I
school.
like that. So tell me what gives you anxiety about it.
I don't know. Like I was sort of not myself yet in high school. I was a version of myself, but I think like sort of I like myself a lot better now, ironically. And I guess it would be sort of part performance art, part trying to show off. I don't know what the point is. Why do people go to high school reunions?
This is good stuff. This is really hot.
Okay.
This is really hot. No, I think you're going to like this. And I actually have a listener submission, Thomas.
Oh!
And even better, it's a two-parter because this one came in the first time. The original request came in after we had recorded our last episode of season 3. And then the listener addressed this issue and wrote me feedback. So I actually know how it ends. And it's great. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay.
That. So
Great.
Here we go. I bring you first April.
The month
Not
or
the
a
month,
name?
the person.
Got it.
April says, I just heard y'all for the first time on the ADHD podcast. Nice. And I was dying from laughing so hard. Love it. So I totally relate, and I can't wait to listen to your What's That Smell show now. Excellent. Can y'all address high school reunion anxiety?
Okay, great.
I went to the 10-year thinking this is going to be wonderful to see everyone grown up and have all the wounds from the past, Mean Girls, my own mistakes, and all the silly pride during those years healed by the passage of time. But nope. Got to the 10-year reunion and all the insecurity came back to me like a freight train, and I've been recovering the past 10 years from that 10-year reunion experience. Now it's time for the 20-year in a month, and I just don't think it's a good idea for me to go. Is it okay not to go? I want to make peace with that era of my life, but can I do that better by going or not going and just putting my behind in the past, as Pumbaa the warthog would say? Oh, April. Oh, April.
April. Wow. Okay. Well, I guess you kind of know my feelings about it.
Well, and it turns out you and April are not alone. Reunions are traumatic for everyone in some way, shape, or form. It's an entire event that is full of triggers, right? Like it's just
like the possibility of just a raw nerve.
Yeah.
Especially high school for me, just because I did okay in high school socially, but I mean, I was so scared the whole time. Like I was just sort of
Yeah.
like pretending. That's why I sort of meant like I wasn't really myself yet. I felt like I was sort of performing the whole time. So to go
Totally.
back into that, I think I'd be worried that I would just become my old self.
It's really funny that you bring that up, and especially the performative aspect of high school. And for me, I was literally performing. Like I was the
Right.
drama club kid, and so I was in like every play. And if I ever had sort of downtime or quiet time, I wasn't hanging out with my friends. I would literally go sit in the dark theater and do theater things like practice lines or just recite stuff or sing or whatever by myself. Like that was
Ooh.
my experience. And so even though I feel like I was known, like I was recognized on, across our high school, it was because people would come and see me in plays. Like it never felt truly sort of authentic. I had very few real deep friendships that transcended high school.
Oh, okay.
And so I feel like going back to this is why I don't go back to my high school reunions either.
You don't
because
either.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I
Got it.
I don't have I don't have a very good sense memory of that time. Like I worked hard to escape so much of my experience there. I went to class, I did fairly well in class, and then I was in the theater, and I wasn't into sports. I didn't go to sporting events. Like it was just that was my experience, and so it's pretty easy for me to say, "Sure, April, don't go." But then I did a little research.
Yeah, because there's another side of this.
Yes.
Of if you have a psychic scar, do you want to try to scab that sucker up? I get it. Because, yeah, okay, keep going. I just wanted to say, yes, I already co-signed on what I haven't heard you say. Go
Well,
ahead.
let's just say again, you just said scab that sucker up. And
Gross.
I have nothing to relate that to other than, wow, Tom, really? Scab that sucker up.
That's a
Ugh.
chapter from that book you recommended.
It is.
That's chapter 8 in Virus Time, Magoo. Right.
Exactly. So reunions are a marker of time. We all have a natural instinct to relive our best memories of our youth. These are our hero years, but psychologist and professor Dr. Mary Lamia
Oh,
has
I know
written
Mary.
extensively on the subject, and she says, quote, "The inclination to relive the self-consciousness and vulnerability of youth and the
self-consciousness
anxieties
and vulnerability.
Mhm.
Yes, yes,
It-
yes.
The anxieties it created about being good enough can lead you to examine your present view of yourself. At some level, you know the judge is in your own head, not in the minds of your former classmates. Perhaps instead of wondering what your former classmates will think of you and what you will think about them, you might ask yourself, how can I improve? How can I enjoy my life or feel accomplished? Maybe the question for some is simply, why am I still so self-critical? Or why am I so focused on the insecurities of others? And what's funny about that is I read a number of wonderful essays by people who have, and some who have not, conquered the social anxiety of reunions. And they all share a number of common themes. People are, one, apologizing for not having done more with their lives.
Ooh.
Or two, attempting to redeem themselves from their former attitudes and beliefs. In one, I kid you not, she was voted most likely to marry Donald Trump in high school and was very eager to clear up that at reunion.
We used to think things.
We sure did. So what comes with that drive to relive our hero years is the dark side stuff too, right? Like
Right.
what about the stuff you managed to hide away? Reunions are about connecting, and that connection can be really healthy. It's what human beings really want and need, and you may not even know that you need it. But in fact, your hesitance to go to the reunion might be the trigger itself that should indicate that you need to.
Because you'll sort of be exercising a little bit, not exercising like a treadmill, but like the girl with her head spinning around. Like, are you
Yeah.
just sort of like letting sunlight in?
Yes. And so
Okay.
as many deeply traumatic essays that I've been reading about people's experience with reunions, the general tone and the sort of narrative arc ends favoring the positive. That the
Oh.
experience ended up being not as traumatic as they expected, that in fact the connection was of greater value, that and I would say in particular those talking about their college reunions, they had a
Sure.
much more sort of stability that came out of it.
Sure. Well,
Right.
that's
And-
when a
yeah.
lot of people become
Yes.
their true selves is in college versus high school.
Well, and that's it. I mean, those who are talking about high school generally are referring to reunions as an opportunity to redeem themselves or to clarify their identity in some way, shape, or form. And college reunions are about maintaining some sort of a deeper connection, right?
That's a neat comparison. Yeah, that makes sense.
I thought that was fascinating. And so, Glenn Reeder is a professor of social psychology at Illinois State University, and he co-authored a study on exactly this stuff. And two findings that weren't terribly surprising. Most important factor in a decision to go back to a reunion is the memory of high school, college, etc. Those who had a good time in school generally favored going back. And when there's a disconnect between the high school experience and the post-school experience, there is conflict in desire to go back. You were great in high school, but work at a job that you feel like you have to justify to those who expected more from you.
Sure.
You likely won't want to return, right? The captain of the football team who ends up what's the stereotype? Ends up selling used cars, never left town, right? Those who peaked in high school are generally aware of that perception, and that causes them trouble. Yeah.
Huh.
So, all of that is very interesting, but I thought I would share just a little bit from a resource that popped up in my research that surprised me, and that is that of Cindy Clamp.
Oh!
Cindy Clamp is a president of an association that I didn't know existed, a trade group for professional reunion organizers.
Oh, wow.
That's right. NARM, the National Association of Reunion Managers.
That sounds like it's just made of the people that edited the yearbooks across America.
Well, okay, probably right, number one.
Yeah.
But love that she posted this. She describes in this following list how things change over the decades from your graduation. All right. Your 10th reunion. It is the least well-attended and the most pretentious, she says. Many people focused on how they look, what kind of car they drive, and what their date looks like.
So, because you're just showing off. You're like, look, I made it and I'm alive. And I didn't peak and whatever. Got it.
Yes. And since most people are in the same general place in life, many are measuring themselves against their classmates. And because they are still relatively so close to graduation, the memories of the people you want to show off to are very clear. Right. So you graduated just 10 years ago. That's nothing. That's a breath.
Right.
And so you still want to go back and say, hey, Johnny, look at my Nissan. But
you did say that it's the least attended. Is that
the
because
least attended, right?
My guess for that is that you're waiting until you have even more to shine.
Right. And then you learn some lessons. And that brings us to the 20th reunion. With more perspective and life experiences under their belts, classmates care much less about superficial success and are more earnestly curious about how people are doing in their families and careers. The 20-year is the most well-attended and a time when people's paths start to diversify.
There's something very comforting about that.
I think so, too. And that's the thing. You see this as the peak, and it's the peak for, I guess, some kind of dark reasons. The 30th gets more interesting because people's lives are all over the board with divorces and career changes and kids of all ages, and classmates show greater confidence, and fewer spouses and guests come along because people don't feel like they need someone by their side.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Okay.
40th reunion. As retirement nears, people's lives start to resemble each other's once again. There's less drinking, more talking, conversations focusing on remember when. People find value in being around others they knew when they were younger because it makes them feel younger in the present. I like that. That's sweet.
That's really nice. Sure.
And then, of course, the 50th, the golden reunion, the second most well attended.
Really?
Right.
Assuming everyone's still alive.
Here we go. You just said it. There is a sense that this could be the last time you see these people.
Mortality.
Yep. Nailed it. Plus, people go because they are able to attend. Like the 40th, nostalgia is strong. Beyond the 50th,
yeah.
I don't want to stop.
I was just going to say, or their brains have gotten a little scrambled and they think they're back in high school.
That's right. More letter jackets.
Right.
Beyond the 50th are much smaller reunions, and those who do attend are really just glad to be able to be there. Just
Fair enough.
relieved that they are still around.
Sure.
to go to the reunion. So that is a review of reunions, again, from Cindy Clamp, president of the National Association for Reunion Managers. And I think that's a
I love having
fascinating
that
survey.
insight on it,
Yeah.
because I'm realizing as we're talking about this more and more, you started asking me, do you go? I started sweating and I just started laughing and saying, why does anyone ever go to these? But I don't even really know what I've been afraid of.
Yeah.
Like I've never
Isn't that
actually
fascinating?
visualized the experience. It was just no. Too raw, not
Yeah.
worth it. But yeah, I mean, that brings up a lot of good things, especially with the 10, I still think is a bad idea. But after that, yeah, I get it. I get
still think it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I have convinced you of nothing. It's interesting, and I think that none of this is to say that whether you should or should not go. I don't go to my high school reunions, and even knowing this, I'm not planning on going to my, I don't know what's next, 30th. Ugh,
What's that? Wood?
that's my 30th is in.
Okay.
Ugh, coming too soon. Oh God. Ugh. Anyhow, I'm not planning on going, and it's not because it's not necessarily because of a deep-seated fear of lack of accomplishment. That's what I was feeling in, I'm sure for the 10th and maybe even a little bit under the 20th. But now I am established in life, and I am more comfortable in my identity, even though I live with anxiety. Like I don't feel like a great fear of that, but I just don't have those connections with people in high school. But like you said, I do go to our college group reunions, right? Those are important to me because those connections are very, very deep. And so for me to say I'm not a reunion guy is disingenuous. I'm very much a reunion guy. It's but it's so much more about the people who, and not the necessarily the school year,
Right.
Which I didn't have a real connection to. There was one little caveat there that I ask as sort of a bonus question. Is Facebook killing the reunion? What do you think?
Oh, right. Facebook.
Again.
Yes. No. Yes.
That's exactly how it shakes out, it turns out.
Okay.
For the younger generations, 10th, 20th, why would you go to your reunion
Right.
when you know everything about all your peers?
I know what they wore for Halloween, for goodness
That's right.
sake.
That's right. But the older generations, older parents, grandparents are finding each other on Facebook once again, organizing and planning for the face-to-face reunions more aggressively than ever before. They are connecting, driving interest in reunions, and that is accelerating. Fascinating. All right. So I have some follow-up.
What?
Thankfully, April delightfully followed up.
That's right.
A little while ago, and she wrote to me. She said, I cannot wait for your podcast to come back. It is seriously the best of all time. What? April?
What are you, me in a wig? This is great. I don't know.
She says, spoiler alert, I didn't go to the reunion.
That's okay.
I don't at all regret not going.
Hooray!
But here's the really good part. A few people actually messaged me and asked why. And I said some really awkward stuff in response. Like, I just have PTSD from high school and I don't know why. Or, it was just hard because I'm not good at sports or cheerleading, so now I'm sending my kids to magnets that don't have those things. I am. 3, I felt like an imposter in high school and everything except choir, theater, and AP English.
Oh, now it's you in a wig. All right.
4, I said, I'm just not good at partying. Like, it really stresses me out, and I would rather be reading a book, especially one on Audible.
You don't read on Audible.
April, you are amazing.
Thank you so much, April.
Yes, I learned some things just talking about this and thinking through it and reading a whole bunch of experiences of reunions, and I deeply appreciate the opportunity to do so, prodded by your question, and I'm so glad that you followed up. And yeah, you don't regret not going. That's it. Yeah. I'm pro reunion choice. That's
April,
me.
You scabbed that sucker up. Congratulations.
You really scabbed it up.
'Cause you're chasing the hurricane, taking the name in vain. But God, it's such a shame.
Thank you all so much for joining us for this What's That Smell reunion. We really appreciate it. Today's tune is Mind Play by Rosa.
Coming up next week.
How sad. It's just the sound of
Yeah.
crickets. Crickets shushing each other because even they don't want to be a part of it.
Loneliness debating? Is that a thing?
It is now.
You look like a real asshole.
That's his official opinion.
You say you
Until then, I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Tommy Metz III. Thank you so much for downloading. We will be back next week on What's That Smell?
said you have to go, but now you kinda wanna stay. Kinda wanna stay. 'Cause you're chasing the hurricane.